And my brother decided to join one of the biggest outlaw motorcycle gangs at the time. It was called the Rebels. What if he gets into a gang fight and I can't be there and something bad happens to him? Fuck it, I'll join too. In a mix of that, I was working as a fly-in, fly-out worker, fighting, drugs, alcohol. I was a hoon, bendering every weekend. And in 2015, my life changed. My girlfriend at the time was hanging up on me. It was my first big FIFA job away. She's like, I'm going out partying, I'm going to get drunk, I'm probably going to get some dick. Getting so angry, I didn't know how to control my emotions, punched a hole on my door, lost my job the next day. And I remember at this time of my life, I was $40,000 in debt. I was on grievous bodily harm charges. I was in this fuck the world mentality, still being in the gangs at this time. And it was just like, I felt like the world owed me something in some way, or it just didn't fucking matter. What's made me into who I am today. So,
Jake Ward, welcome to the show.
thank you, brother. Glad to be here.
So tell me who you are now, what your greatest gifts and strengths are, and then let's rewind the clock to all the experiences and formational times in your life that made you the man you are today.
Oh, absolutely, brother. So first and foremost, I'm a men's high performance and mindset coach. I own 2 gyms. I also run the Empowered Project with Graydon. And I'm a stepfather, which is really beautiful, something that I've leaned into this year for the last year. And yeah, brother, I guess in short, an entrepreneur, ultra marathon runner. I've done motivational speaking. I'm a black belt martial artist. Yeah, there's
Just tell me what you haven't done, and then we'll.
yeah. I've pretty much done wear 1,000 masks up until this point, and I've gone hard in everything that I've done, and that's just my ethos. You know what I mean? I just show up and I don't give up.
So take me through your upbringing, and I guess some of these. Give me a bit more of context that makes your life make sense when we look back in retrospect.
I guess what makes me is all my experiences. Like I said before, I've worn so many different masks in my life. From I grew up, I was the fat nerdy kid that was bullied, that had biscuit nipples. I struggled with body dysmorphia from a very young age. I hated what I fucking saw in the mirror. And that loop of just never feeling enough started there. So that grew into I think it was just, I guess it's like feelings of inadequacy. So that was me growing up. Then my life led into like the teenagers, wanting to fit in, wanting to feel like I belonged, right? What my unique thing was, I was really good at bringing people together. And I think the reason why that I did that is because my mum and dad were emotionally unavailable. They tried their best in our upbringing and everything else like that. We had a little bit of a rough upbringing. I won't go too much into the upbringing with my mum and my dad, but it was, in short, we didn't feel supported. We didn't feel good enough for love. And as you know, as most men, we go out there to seek validation, to prove ourselves. So this story of being the fat, nerdy kid that was bullied, that didn't feel enough, that felt inadequate, that got picked on, and like I'll never forget. Like I think I was 15, and a girl was like, "Why do you have man boobs?" Right, and that was another catalyst to helping me change. And being picked on is again the reason why that I turned to martial arts. But I guess as the story goes, the fat nerdy kid that was bullied at age 15, I started martial arts because I said, I don't feel protected and I feel unsafe within my body. So I thought, how do I become safe? I was like, well, if I'm the strongest, no one's going to ever pick on me. No one's ever going to hurt me. And that's when I started martial arts. At the age of 15, started fighting Muay Thai kickboxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, judo, boxing, all the different arts. And then I guess as the story goes on, and we can rewind to any key bits, that went out until I was at age, in school, trying to fit in, trying to be cool. And at age 17, it was trying to fit in, trying to be cool, training martial arts. And that's when everyone started drinking, partying, and getting into drugs. So that that same trying to be cool, try to fit in led like us into street fights. It led into, when we were older in 18, 19, 20s, into fighting in nightclubs. At one point, I was banned from every nightclub in Perth from fighting. I was really aggressive. And the reason why I was aggressive is because I was still, deep down, my identity was attached to that little boy that didn't feel good enough for love and felt like he had something to prove, and had to feel like he had to prove that he was safe, because I had my safety as a child always taken away from me. So throughout those years of fighting, drugs, alcohol, I was a hoon, And again, this will come back down to what's the context of behind who I am
Mm.
today. And it's why I've wore so many different thousands of masks, from being the nerdy gamer, fat kid that was bullied, into the martial artist, into the boxing, into wanting to be the cool kid, to feel like I belonged, I fit in and I was accepted. And then that like blew out of proportion. And at age 21, my brother decided to join one of the biggest outlaw motorcycle gangs at the time. It was called the Rebels. And when he made that decision to do that, he did that because he was suffering from the same wounds that I was suffering from, and he wanted to protect me. And at that time in my life, it was like I was very disassociated from my mum and my dad, and all I knew was my friends. And probably if the viewers are listening to this, when you think bikies or gangs, you just think Sons of Anarchy. You think you freaking think you don't even know any different. So I'm like, fuck, dude, what do I do here? Like, he's joining. What if he gets into a gang fight and I can't be there and something bad happens to him? So I was like, fuck it, I'll join too. Yeah, and at age 21, I joined the outlaw. I think it was actually a little bit earlier than that, because I was one of the youngest outlaw patch members for the outlaw motorcycle gangs. And again, back into that same question of like what's made me into who I am today. So it was like nerdy, fat kid, bullied, went out from my ages of 17 to 21, partying, doing drugs, bashing drug dealers, fighting people in nightclubs, pretend. I was never like, when I went into those nightclubs and I was put into those situations, it's not that I wanted to start something. I would always protect those around me. Again, like coming back to the story, like I used to love anime, and I was in my own world, trying to be my hero, the hero of my village, and it was about me protecting my friends, and that was a way I felt significant. So to fast forward, from those areas of fighting, drugs, alcohol, those things, in a mix of that, I was working as a fly in, fly out worker. So I understood the struggles of mental health in isolated areas, working 4-in-1, and then I guess to summarize, that was literally my life: gangs, fighting, drugs, alcohol, friends, partying, bendering every weekend. And then 2015, my life changed. Um, and I remember, and this is often what I would speak about when I'm speaking in front of people, but it was in 2015. I was having an argument with my girlfriend on the phone. And previous to this, again, to reiterate to that first question, what makes me who I am today is I had relationship fail after fail because I was cheated on. And again, that comes with its own set of problems. You put walls and facades up to try to mask it because you're scared to get rejected and you're scared to get hurt. Fast forward back to the point in 2015, my girlfriend at the time was, hanging up on me. It was for my first big FIFA job away. She's like, I'm going out partying. I'm going to get drunk. I'm probably going to get some dick. And you get so triggered. And I was like getting so angry. I didn't know how to, control my emotions, punched a hole through the door in my donga door, lost my job the next day. And I remember at this time of my life, I was $40,000 in debt. I was on GBH charges, so grievous bodily harm charges. Um, I was in this fuck the world mentality, still being in the gangs at this time. And it was just like, I felt like the world owed me something in some way, or it just didn't fucking matter. And anyway, I really needed this job. I was $40,000 in debt. I had to pay for the lawyers, you know, and I remember flying home off site into Perth and walking into my house. The house was empty. Um, Me and my girlfriend ended up breaking up. So it was like, just lost my job, got no money, $40,000 in debt, had to do anything to make ends meet. And in that moment, in that life, I remember sitting on my bedside and just tears rolled down my face and I broke down. And in that moment, like I slipped into the victim mindset. It's like, why the fuck is this happening to me? This isn't even who you fucking are. Like underneath all of that, not the gun, sorry, the drugs, alcohol, the violence, just, it was just a boy that wanted to fit in and feel loved and feel secure. And it's just like, you're so much better than this. I was like, what the fuck have you got yourself into? And it was like what I felt like the bottom of the barrel. And it was my catalyst into changing my life in 2015. It was just like, I remember it to this day when tears were running down my face, and I was like questioning, should I be here? Should I not be here? As you have those thoughts, right? And I remember, a voice was knocking on my shoulder, and it was the warrior, and it was all my years of martial arts. Because in the midst of all of this, I was training professionally, training for a black belt in martial arts, and I remember just sitting there as I went to the bottom of the barrel It says, the voice said, you got yourself into this fucking mess. You can get yourself out. You created this. You can fix this. And in that moment, I realized if I wanted life to change, I had to change. If I wanted life to get good, I had to get good. And that's when I decided to take ownership of my life. While I can't control what happens outside of me, the outside events, I can certainly control what's inside of me, my thoughts, my decisions, my emotions, and what I chose to do next. And I'm pretty sure Marcus Aurelius says this, it's like, realize that you have control over your mind, and the outside events in your life will no longer affect you. And he was just saying it's like the inner fortress within ourselves is you, no matter what happens into your life, everything's a fucking choice. Everything. If you're having a bad day, no matter what it is, and it can come to the biggest and the worst situations where you have all right to feel and to go into that victim mindset, but that's a choice. And I realized no matter what in my life, I have a choice. And then when I realized that, I took ownership of my life and I decided to make a change. And no matter how bad life got, I knew that I was still in control because that made me free. And I guess that was the catalyst of changing my point until we fast forward all the way up until who I am today. But that was a catalyst, and that's what drove me. And it's one of my famous sayings, all great change happens when you get sick and tired of your own fucking bullshit. But I'll let you jump in there because it's a lot of information to digest. That's just the sped up version. There's so many, I can explain why, and what goes on in our internal world. But I'll pass over to you, Egs. You jump in, brother.
No, that's a beautiful story. What I'm fascinated by is, and I want to hear your perspective on, what are those rock bottom moments and experiences teach you that thinking about or hearing your story can't, what is the tangible experience that makes you so convinced that you want to take responsibility and you never want your life to turn out that way? Because I think a lot of us do get stuck in the mediocrity of life, in that middle ground. So firstly, what did those rock bottom moments teach you? And also, how did you know at that point in time that you were in control as well? Because a lot of people feel like the world's against them, like you did say, but knowing that your life is still in your control is probably one of the most powerful factors there.
So I guess it's like anything, and it's human beings. We don't change until the pain is greater than wanting to stay the same. We're so comfortable. And if you don't have enough pain, people won't change. And that's not anyone else's fault. It's literally how our brain is wired. Our brain is wired for safety. It's the first thing, right? And that means it's like, if I'm comfortable, I'm safe. And when people change, is because they feel so uncomfortable within themselves. So I think pain is a great motivator, but it's not the only way out. Every point of change comes from a powerful decision, and that decision needs to be made with emotional conviction. Like, I'm never fucking going back. And to circle back, so that was the reason why. And circle back to what you previously said before. So it's like about what creates change, the pain, and then what else did you say there, Egs?
What made you feel like you were in control? Because a lot of people feel out of control in their lives, like their life is someone else's fault. It was the way that they were brought up. And you could easily point to the experiences you went through as the reason why your life isn't the way you want it. So how did you still feel somewhat in control and responsible for the outcomes in your life?
I just knew that what I realized in that point, I just knew that, and it comes back down from training martial arts. If you want to get good at something, you have to show up every day, no matter what. You have to be the hardest worker in the room. And I learned that from martial arts, right? So that's what I did. And I knew that as much as I wanted to blame everyone else, or if I can blame, it's not that I even was blaming life. I just knew that it was my fuck up, and I had to take responsibility, because it's just like, no one's going to change this for me. And that's how I knew. I was like, what can I control? And I didn't even know the principles behind it then. I was like, what can I control? I was like, my actions. All right, my decisions. What got you into this point? It was like the process of eliminating bad decisions, bad behaviors. All right, let's control them. And then in that moment, I went on to Google, it was like, how to become successful. And then read a book. And then I was like, fuck, how do I, everyone always has this ambition to be successful in their own unique way, but everyone falls off. So I was like, I read a book. It was like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Donald Trump, Think Like a Champion. I started reading like Napoleon Think Rich and Grow Rich, all the different books that are into personal development, David Goggins. And then I stopped. I was like, why do I keep stopping? I don't get it.
Stopping what? What would it?
Just stopping, like they couldn't stick to the behaviors, couldn't stick to the habits. So I was like, I know, my mind. I'm going to read a book on mindset. And then that's when I started to get obsessed about like personal development and change, because I was just like, oh, the mindset is the tool. The mindset is everything. If you can get this right, you can get everything right.
How would you simplify your understanding of mindset then?
I would say mindset is an ability of taking control of your awareness, where you're choosing to place your focus, understanding your emotions and how you're feeling and how to best understand that. But to break down like the mindset, it's about behaviors, habits, behaviors become habits, and then understanding our emotions. And then it's like that comes back down to our beliefs and values. And I guess those beliefs and values is what drives everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you were in those experiences of clubbing, the gangs, what was your awareness like? What was the self-talk like? Because I think when you would introspect now at the beliefs you have, the skill set, the knowledge you have, right? And you could probably look back and be like, if I'm in this situation, I would have incredible awareness around why this is ineffective for my life. But in those moments, what is your thinking like? Like, take me through what the texture of your mind is at that point in time.
So what, when I'm out night clubbing or something like that?
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by it because I haven't really gone into the depths of those experiences. So I think a lot of people can learn from people who've been in those experiences. So take me into the texture of your mind. Like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And
so let's take it back. Before I had pre-drinks, it's like where I grew when I grew up. It was just like I watched Green Street Hooligans, right? And again, this will come back into it. So it was like, again, like we're a team, we're like not a gang, but we're a team, and we got to look after each other when you go out there. And I remember my brother said it's a hard word out there before I was 18. He's like, you got to really look after yourself, make sure your friends have each other's back no matter what. So it was almost like war speeches before we went out, and it was just like we got to look after each other's back no matter what. And we would go out there, so it's our brains are in a state of threat. Like, okay, cool, we're trying to enjoy ourselves, but if someone takes away our safety, and that comes back down to that little boy that didn't feel safe, who was still bullied in that belief system of I'm not enough, I'm not protected, I feel unsafe within my body because he didn't have safety growing up in his childhood environment. So it's just like the only way to get that was through power. So when I was in those environments, it was like I was always, because I was a martial artist as well, I was always hyper vigilant. So, and even to this day, I'm still in a state of hyper vigilance, and I don't like going out for that exact reason, because when there's, as men, we go in there and we lock eyes, and it becomes, we don't know, like you subconsciously size people up and look at it. So it's just like you're in a state of hyper vigilance, looking at who's going to be a threat and who's not going to be a threat. And it's really hard to, like, back then it was really hard to like get through that. So when you're going out, you're night clubbing, you're dancing, you're on the dance floor looking around, like, all right, cool, who's dangers, who's looking at us, all right, cool. When people start to come in, back then it was like they bumped me. I used to have a rule: bump me more than 3 times. As soon as someone bumped me more than 3 times, I'd elbow them. I'd give them 2 warnings. I'm like, do not bump me.
where would they be? Like, where would
On the dance floor,
yeah.
like Metro's Fremantle, Liquid's nightclub. They were the biggest ones in there. Then I'm sure there was some more in Perth and stuff like that, like Magnet House and stuff like that. But I'd come in there. But again, was not because I was an asshole. It was just because my little boy was so frightened. So he's like, oh, he's so frightened. And that frightened, if I put a facade on, comes over as aggressive or staunch or whatever you made it do. But it's because my little boy. So he'd be like, you bump me, but hey, bro, you all good? Sweet. Bump me again. Hey, bro, just let you know I don't like you bumping me. Fucking don't bump me. Bump me again, I just roll him around and just knock him out straight away.
And how many times did that happen?
Lots. And it's something that, again, you're not proud of. Like at the time, it was like you're getting, you get that validation. People think you're cool. It's like people think you're tough, and you build a reputation for yourself. But if you step back now and look at it from the outside, it's like what damage you're actually causing to other people. Like if you went too far. So it's like, same if we bring it back to society, we still have the same problem in there. A lot of people are coming into the nightclubs or whatever. They have, whether it's insecurities, like feeling the need to prove themselves, either to feel masculine or because they feel unmasculine. And it's like, or it could be like they have like come up in from a background that I have, feeling the need to feel safe or protect yourself, or they get significance in one of our core human needs, the way that they feel validated, the way that they feel important culturally. So they go out, and then that's when fights happen. That's where people do that. You know, some people that aren't trained or understand that one bad hit can change someone's life. You know, if you hit someone in the back of the head, you can kill someone, especially if you're trained. You know, and even if you're not trained, people, you know, a past version of me as well, you know, would have like I hit people in the head with a bottle. And it's just like, what damage? You don't think about that in the moment, because you can either be coming from survival, and or you could, on the other side, some people survival like I was, or people could come from like the need to prove or feel important, because then they're going to get some validation from their friends or their girls, which is a bunch of fucking bullshit, right?
So how did you feel in those moments when it was happening?
When I was fighting, like I guess it would have been eventually like, if we're really, it would have been scared, and then fight or flight would come in, and then aggression would take over, and it would just be like, get the fuck away from me.
Would you feel powerful, like significant within yourself, that you can stand up for yourself?
So not like I wouldn't not like yes and no afterwards. It's like that thing, but what it came back down to is like, if I really drew it back down and pulled it apart, it's like shadow, right? When we feel so helpless, our subconscious or unconscious need is to feel power, because we felt so helpless before in our life. So it's like an infatuation of feeling powerful because we felt helpless before. And I guess that's the same thing. If we draw it back to that kid that felt helpless, decided to start martial arts so he can become powerful. So it's like that, a little bit of infatuation. You would feel powerful, but it's not like when you go back into it, if you really drag it down, and you would be like, you talk about the scene, and it's like, not like, you see when I elbowed him and knocked him out, and that's like what you would talk about, because it's like, that's your friends would like validate you, or their friends would like give you like high fives, or like, yeah, you just totally had our back, or whatever it may have been, you know what I mean? So I guess it's like, that's the way that you kind of look at it. It's like, again, it's social. It's social that what actually ties that in. And it's like feeling that validated to peers. Whereas if you had peers that really say, hey, bro, that actually wasn't fucking good, that it wasn't the right thing to do. So it's like, that's where like how to break the cycle is awareness around that, and having people that actually said, hey, that's actually not fucking cool.
If you're in a gang, how does calling someone out for their behavior go down?
I see. We never did it. Everyone would just create that environment where everyone supports the toxic behavior, and then it reaffirms and builds more toxic behaviors, because it's what happens in those environments.
So when you were in that rock bottom moment and you said you started reading books, how did you change your environment? Because we know how important our environment is. Like, how did you talked about some of the self-sabotage patterns? So maybe extend that journey out a bit, and how you've actually been able to sustainably transform your life.
I guess to start, it was in 2015. I was still in the gangs and stuff like that. So my ethos was, I bring it back to martial arts, right? I would like, I developed a routine, morning and evening routine, and then I would figure out gaps. So what I would do, I'd work FIFO. I wouldn't talk to anyone. I'd just read books. So I'd read books and education and bring awareness to myself. Then I was still self-sabotaging. So I'd go to work, I would train every day, you know, physically work, and then in between shift and after shift, I would study. And I'd study, so that would just help me bring better, more awareness and better understanding of what I wanted to do with my life. So it'd be the first thing that I would need is direction. So like, if you're wanting to break self-sabotage, right, if we're talking about the roots of self-sabotage, depending on what that is 9 times out of 10 men need direction, and men need a purpose. They need something to work towards that makes them feel excited. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, we can be so consumed of toxic behaviors that make us feel good short term, but when you have something that you want to aim for, it gives you purpose to move forward, and it gives you a purpose to try to move away from those things. So I think.
So what was your purpose when you're in the gang and there's this connection, this brotherhood? Was there a greater purpose there? Like, what was your feeling like?
I just knew that I wanted to make something of myself, but I didn't know what it was then. Whether I just wanted to get out of FIFO.
Was there an emptiness though, without having that real authentic purpose, and it was coming from the wound of your childhood? Did it feel hollow at times? Like, how aware were you that this life that you had built was from a place of
I had no idea still. I still had no idea until I started to unpack and get a better understanding of myself from 2017 onwards. All I knew is that painful moment happened in my life, and I didn't want to ever go back there. I was like, I do not want to go back to that. I will never feel like that again. Do you know what I mean? I made that commitment. So that was that decision, that powerful decision backed by emotional certainty. I don't fucking want to go back there. You know what I mean? So that's what helped me just keep moving forward. And then it was like the same thing. I wanted to be successful because I knew what it felt like to be at the bottom of the barrel, have no money, so I just was driven. I didn't know what success looked like. I just kept moving, taking imperfect action in the right direction. Like when I said that I was $40,000 in debt, worked FIFO, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I was like, oh, bullshit, assets, liabilities. I got $40,000 in debt. Let's pay that off. Let's start putting some money behind myself. And I was just like, I kept losing job after job after job for just shitty attitude. And I was like, I'm not fucking losing a job again. So I just became a really hard worker. Applied what I did in martial arts to work, and it just became a really hard worker. I guess to circle back, was it you wanting to understand more about self-sabotage? Or?
I think it's just interesting, like what makes someone be able to translate the emotion into real action, because a lot of us fall back into patterns. But I think the bottom of the barrel emotional certainty that you had is like almost this anchor point of, I never want to go down this direction. So it provides that sort of directionally correct awareness within you. I think a lot of us are stuck in that middle ground, and it's just interesting about what's your thought process is to create sustainable outcomes.
What is the best way to create sustainable outcomes? I guess everything in our life comes back down to an emotional decision, and it's like it comes back down to having an integrity, but it's the power of that decision, right? It's before any change can happen in a human being. It's about taking ownership and having awareness of their flaws, their wrongdoings, and making a decision. And that decision is going to be like, what will I gain if I keep on this path, and what will I lose? And it's about understanding what will I lose, not now, but if I keep doing 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the worst possible outcomes. So our brain is very, it needs to understand like what is the absolute fucking worst outcome that can happen. And I need to start to associate that with my behavior and what's the absolute best. And that's like the art of the decision. This is what I want. If I keep choosing this, what's the absolute best? And I remember when I was doing this, and I learned this from Tony Robbins, it was neuro association therapy. I wrote down an outcome that I wanted, and on the other side, I was like all the pleasurable things. What would I gain? Like in 2 years, 10 years, 10, like whatever it was, 2 to 5, just future pacing. Then I wrote the opposite, but I had to really think in really bad outcomes. And then I would literally have it in the top pocket when I was scaffolding rigging, and I'd read it, put it back, and reading. So I think ownership is one, understanding no one's going to change but you. Making an emotional decision is the next thing. And then like for you to create consistent outcomes always comes back down to having a routine that is, or a blueprint. And that routine is a series of actions that you need to take on a consistent basis to meet an outcome. And in order for us to do that, we need to be disciplined. If we do not, discipline is the gateway to freedom. This is what Jocko Willink says. Another one is Mike Tyson. He's like, you've got to do the things that you hate like you fucking love them, right? And that's the exact same things. And you build, this is like a muscle that you build, and it's only done through doing reps and reps and reps. And I realized that. And the reason why I could get outcomes is because I was disciplined in my martial arts training. I was disciplined in my kickboxing training. I would train hard. I'd try to do more than everyone else. And that same mentality that I built because I knew I had grit and I knew I had discipline. So when you start to master that, because there's a lot of stuff that we've got to get through to be able to be disciplined, right? That's why self-sabotage is so relevant, because I can't be disciplined if deep down I don't feel enough. I don't feel good enough for love. I don't feel worthy of support and all these things. Yes, you can be disciplined to a certain degree, but you always will self-sabotage. That's like a lot of journey that I had in my life of getting in shape, getting out of shape, because I'd self-sabotage with food, because food was a coping mechanism from me from childhood. It was like my way of feeling loved when I didn't have an emotionally available father, or instead of him bonding with us when we were younger, love my dad now, but he would, because he was on his own journey doing the best that he could. But he was out drinking, fighting in pubs and stuff like that as well. So he would leave us with $20 to go get food. But it's like, then that would create the association of this is what love is for me.
Mm.
But I guess to bring it back to like building predictable outcomes, it's ownership, making an incredible decision, like a commitment, like, I'm fucking gonna do this.
Mm.
And then having the framework, like a daily and a weekly code, so that you know that if you do those on a set basis, you create predictable outcomes. So if you want to be a high performer, you time block, you schedule, you create predictable outcomes, and that's only from building certainty in your life because that's done through routines. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like to create better outcomes and stuff like that, brother?
Yeah, 100%. With discipline, and this is what I think you're alluding to, and I think this is why discipline is like almost the most important sword for men to have, because not only does it create outcomes, but it becomes this teacher as well. Because when we apply discipline, it'll force us to confront the limiting beliefs. Because let's say, for example, you committed to, it's like you can translate it to anything. If someone's starting a business, doing a podcast, going to the gym, and then the excuses, the emotional cues start to come through, like you're forced to confront that. If you have the undercurrent of I'm never going to give up, I'm always going to do this, you're forced to face it. You are forced to confront the depths of your mind.
It's like what I teach in our modern day warrior program, right? Is burning the boats. And it's something that you'll say that you'll do, then you probably won't do it. It's something you'll say that you do. This is why you have to have the undercurrent of like not giving up.
But do you think that that's, and this is what I think is super, super important caveat here. Do you need rock bottom of the barrel to access that emotional certainty? Because a lot of people give up because they have the parachutes. This is what Matthew McConaughey says. People have got parachutes in their life that they can go back to. They've got securities. They've got a plan B. How do we burn the boats and ensure that we can fully commit to the life that we really want?
I guess it's like, again, it comes back down to comfort, right? And it's the underlying thing for me is like what I learned a long time ago. And, David Goggins speaks about this, the dark side, and he's talking about accessing our shadow and our insecurities and using them as fuel. You can do that for so long, and then what will happen is you start to recreate pain to give you more motivation. So it's like, all right, for example, like I felt like I'd reached the top, like really good in my body, blah, 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 business is going well. And then I'm like, right, cool, let's fuck it up. So, all right, let's eat heaps of shit food. Let's get out on this is past versions of me. Eat heaps of shit food, get on the piss, fuck up my life a little bit so I get really like frustrated.
Addicted to being the hero of your own story.
Yeah,
almost.
yeah. So I got like I created pain,
Yeah.
so I could use that pain as fuel to keep going. But it's like and I hope this is coming back onto it. You'll reach a certain point where you need to find a different fuel source.
Because I think the pain is a finite fuel source, right? Which is where you have to create artificial pain in your life. Like you have to recreate the pain so that you can extract it. And I think that's where a lot of us talk about when we come from the place of love, that's an infinite source.
100%.
So take me through that transition, because I think for a lot of people, that is like one of the most important conversations to be aware of within themselves.
So I think it's like this, like that's a form of self-sabotage, what I'm saying. It's like you'll get to a point where you take a step backwards and you realize I'm recreating the same patterns to use this as fuel.
How do you know, what would be some internal signals? Like how were you becoming aware at that point in time that you were recreating the pain?
Just by like, all right, cool. What it'd be, my signals for me was like eating shit food, getting on the piss heaps, and it'd be like I got comfortable. And it's just like, and I know that I'd only do that because every time that I do that, it would give me an incredible fuel source to be even more disciplined for like 2 or 3 months. And I kept doing it. And I was just like, why? And then I realized it was just like still when I was doing that I was, it was my quote, right? All great change happens when you get sick and tired of your own bullshit. I realized that. And so I was like, I'd be like, all right, everything's going good. So I need to get sick and tired of my bullshit so I can keep making great changes. And the real transition for me is understanding that. And then I was just like, the journey of loving yourself more and loving yourself truly and deeply and building a life in alignment with what I always think. But when you really love yourself, I think that's like the key. Because when your cup is overflowing, it's just going to overflow into everyone around you. And like, not to go on the quote bandwagon, it's like our deepest fear is that not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It's not our darkness, but it's our light that most frightens us. And that's very true when you make that transition. It's easy to be a shit person, but it's harder to be a better, like a good person, because you've got to choose your morals over your ego. have good values. So I think it's like you can only get to that place when you truly start to love yourself for all your inadequacies, all your
Mm.
imperfections. And when you do that, it's like making the shift.
Mm. The thing that stops people with that is shame, right? So
Shame, yeah.
take me through that, your own journey, and then maybe what we can learn about how to think about the shame in our own lives to overcome that.
So I guess it's like shame is like one of those things. If you know the David map of consciousness, it's one of the lowest things. It's say it's a vibrational frequency above death, and it's attached to like hopelessness, right? So it's like this is probably the best thing is a bit to get the better understanding of it is like shadow work. It's like what don't I want the outside world to know about me?
Have you heard that Brene Brown conceptualization of it? I think it was like if you got all the people that you loved in your life and you put them in a room
Mm,
and they were all talking about one thing behind your back, what would be that thing you'd be most scared of them talking about in your life? And that is whether it's the thing you did, the action, or the
mm,
mistake you made. And if you got all the people you loved and they were all talking about it, what would be that? What would be
mm.
those things that you'd be so scared for the people you love to be thinking and talking about you? And I think that for me has been a good way to access, what are the things that I'm scared for the world to think about me?
100%, mate. And it's like the only way, once you understand, like, what don't I want the outside world to know about me? What is it that I try to hide behind closed doors? Who am I behind closed doors? And it's like, when we do men's work, it's like a guilt and shame circle where we create a horseshoe, right? And everyone creates a circle, and we'll do an example. And then it'll be like, you'll stand at the front, and it's like, what don't I want the outside world to know about me? And it's like, you say something like, for example, mine was like, there was a few different versions of it. It's like I feel inadequate and I don't feel good enough for love. And that was like something that I held so deep because I was just like, as a child, I didn't feel, I felt unlovable. And I was just like, oh, you try to hide that from the world and you might try to prove that you're through success. You might try to prove through physical structure, status, power that you are lovable and you create a life around being lovable because deep down that you feel unlovable.
Mm.
Mm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Because I think a lot of us, like the thing with shame for a lot of us is that it's so unconscious. And there is that, I think the messy journey of self improvement is becoming aware of, the things that we're avoiding dealing with. And then there's that messy journey of embracing them, learning how to work our way through them.
Mm.
What was that journey like for you as you became aware of the subconscious wounds and you started to become aware of, how the past is replicating your future? How did you navigate that?
I guess where I really think is such a powerful tool and framework is forgiveness. It's like we hold so much guilt and shame inside and all of our inadequacies of not feeling enough. It's about when I'm doing one-on-one coaching or therapy with someone, it's about teaching them forgiveness. And it's usually comes back down to a past version of them that didn't have their needs met. So it's like, one example would be with my younger self. He's like, like, dear little Jakey, I'm sorry for all the times that I didn't listen to your voice and made you feel like that you're not enough. And I shamed you for being fat and overweight and not feeling like that you belonged. I'm sorry that that you didn't have those things that you needed when you were growing up. And usually you'll move through this process of like sometimes it's anger. I remember when I was doing forgiveness on my dad, I was like, I fucking hate you. How could you have fucking done that to me and my brother? You fucking used to bash us, hit us. All I fucking wanted was from you was fucking love. Like that boy was mad because he just wanted love from his father and he was so masked by anger. But then until I moved through the anger and I moved through, what he was going through to make him feel that way because he was just projecting because he didn't feel unlovable. He was adopted. He felt like the most worthless person in the planet, even though wasn't true. That's what was true for him. So he only projected that out in the way that he knew, even though he didn't mean to. But it's like I had to see that until I could see that I could release all of that shame and that anger towards him. And then I had to also do that for myself, why won't like when I was that fat nerdy kid that was bullied, it was just like I felt so much shame around not fitting in, not feeling like I belonged, or that I wasn't good enough to fit in, like to be loved. So until I met that part of me with love, that painful part of love, and accepted that part of me, did it. It's like the shadows, like until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct your life and call it that. And until I understood all of that and I met that parts of my inadequacy and my shadow with love, did it finally release for me.
Mm. Yeah, because I think when we go through things in our life, right, like our brain is trying to create an understanding of why this is happening. And when you're young and you don't really have a mind that can, realize that it's out of your control, we have to create a conclusion. And I guess the easiest one is I'm unlovable, or else why would this be happening to me? And I think that's where interesting. A lot of the teachers that from the more spiritual element, we recreate all this suffering because we're trying to like overcome the exact same lesson that we've been avoiding.
Mm.
Like there's often, you know, let's say when you're growing up, right? Like there's like an innocence, and we keep recreating these patterns in our life because it's trying to teach us something.
Mm.
It's fascinating how many, and it's what I love about this world is there's a million ways to skin a cat, and this is why everyone has a different framework. Like I've met people who change their life so many different ways, and I think that's where sometimes, and referencing back what you said before, sometimes you just got to take that next step. Like you said, the imperfect action when
Mm.
you were saying just reading the books, going through. And I think a lot of us now are in the information age where we're trying to obsess about the perfect route to
Mm.
a better version of ourselves. And I think imperfect action, be directionally correct,
Mm.
take the next step, do something that feels like it's a positive step. And I feel like the horizon will start to open up and the fog will start to clear because we're so obsessed about what's the perfect route. The reality is, and I keep reminding myself this, you are not going to probably see the path, step 10 when you're at step 1. If you don't take step 2, you're not going to get to step 10, but we want to be at step 10. It's like you're probably not ready for that step anyway.
Mm. It's like anything. It's like you take imperfect action and you've got to be able to, as we all know, step outside your comfort zone. That is the biggest thing. It's like the treasure that you seek is in the cave that you're most avoiding, and you've got to do that. And it's like and that comes back down to from relationships, physical challenges, business challenges, personal development challenges, anything. You've got to keep getting uncomfortable, and it sucks because our body craves homeostasis to feel comfortable all the time, and it's like you got to keep. You'll get to one level, and then as my friend Graydon said, every new level there's a devil, right? And there's just like you get to another mountaintop, there's another one, and it's just like you've got to keep stretching yourself.
Mm.
And if you take imperfect action, just keep going, you keep showing up, you're pivoting, you're adjusting, and you keep pushing yourself outside to the places that you don't want to go, you'll eventually, the path becomes clearer.
Mm. How do men misunderstand masculinity?
I guess it just comes back down to like it's generational, right? What I did a survey with over like 100 women, and what the number one thing that came up for was men don't know how to communicate, and they don't have integrity. It's like that. Because I asked them what's the most unattractive trait: being lazy, not taking charge, and bottling their emotions up. And the reason why that we do this, it's generational. Because if we look at how our dads started and what is manly, it's like to be strong, to just keep on going. And why those things are true, the evolution of a man has changed because we have to adapt to our modern societies, right? So it's like, what I guess it comes back down to what do I consider a strong man?
Mm.
My perception of a strong man is a couple of different things, but it's mostly under the awareness of is being disciplined, having good morals, having good values, uh, being physically capable, like just being physically fit, however that looks for you. You don't have to be the fittest person in the world, but just being physically capable. So that's one element that's called like the yin and the yang, right? That's one element, having discipline, being a man of your word, having good integrity, having good morals, sticking up for the people that need it. If you're strong, stick up for the weak, being your hero. And then the other side, that's one side of it. Then the other side is being open. And one thing that we're taught from like toxic stoicism is to not feel our emotion. We if we want to be the rock in any situation, we need to be able to know that it's okay for us to be supported. It's okay for us to reach out for help. It's yin and yang. It's hardening and softening, hardening and softening. We harden if we have an intruder come into our house. We fucking harden. We do whatever it takes. And then if we're with our family and our friends, we soften. And it's not judging or shaming our softness, because it's like we want to be able to be vulnerable. We want to be able to communicate. We want to be able to hold love. We want to be able to hold emotional capacity, because without both of them, if we're emotionally unavailable, we'll just recreate the same problems as we always do. So it's being in tune with our emotions when we're feeling frustrated. Hey, this is what I'm feeling right now, and not shaming ourselves from that. If we're having a hard day, it's not, and then it's different. It's like, you don't want to. It's there's a fine line between, you're allowed to complain, you're allowed to be frustrated, but it's like you've also got to be able to do something about it, because it's like, depending on what the context is that you're allowed to have a hard day, you're allowed to receive help, you're allowed to receive support and stuff like that as well. But it's also, if you're complaining and not doing anything about it, you're being a victim as well. So it's like, that's where it can be, oh no, you're just freaking whinging, which is not the truth. But it's just depending on what the context is. Men are just doing the best that they can at the time. But I guess it's like, to summarize that, it's like someone that can harden and then also soften. That's why vulnerability and having the courage to speak about how you're feeling. Sometimes it's easy to fight someone in the street. Sometimes it's easy to, like, whatever it may be, earn money. But sometimes where we hold shame is speaking about how I'm feeling, because sometimes we perceive that as feeling inadequate or weak. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. With stoicism, my perception is I think we've misinterpreted a lot of stoicism. I think we attribute how the previous generation of fathers, and we say they're stoic. But one of the misinterpretations of stoicism is that men don't feel things. Now, I think there was a lot of suppression in the previous generation of fathers, right? But the Stoics were never about suppressing emotions. It was the feeling of something, but not being dictated by the emotions. And a lot of the greats replicate this in their teachings. And everyone's sort of like, Stoicism, it's a very progressive movement saying like Stoicism is bad. It's causing men to suppress their emotions. Like Stoicism was never about suppressing emotions. It was not being controlled and dictated by emotions. And there's a difference, because our world now is feelings dominated. And I think the reason is because our previous generation was all about suppressing emotions, right? But I think we're not integrating the aspect now where it's like, feel your emotions, but don't be controlled by them. You have the ability to respond, and you are in control of your reaction. And I think that is what we're
100%.
missing.
Yeah, hit the nail on the head, brother.
If a man is feeling lost, and I think a lot of men are feeling lost in this world now, what do you think's the first thing they should do?
Get to the gym. Yeah, if a man's feeling lost, the first thing, I call it the 5 Ps of a man's purpose, right? It's like pursue, so have a goal, have something to work towards. And like anything, speak to anything mental health related. It's like our mental health is a direct reflection of our physical health. So it's like, if you are lost and you don't know where to go, career, relationship, it's like work, just start with getting to the gym. However that looks for you. If you can't afford going to the gym, go for a walk, go for a run. Just do something physically active, because that's going to give you the foundation and the access to better emotions to make better decisions. So it's like, pursue your physical health first, physical health. Then it's like the process of elimination. Pursue your physical health. If you're eating shit, start to eat better. If you're drinking that shit, start to drink more, like better water. It's about temperaments. It's about self-control. It's about balance. But start there, and then from that, it's about understanding and your environment. So it's like physical health. Then it's like auditing your environment. Who are you around? It. No matter how hard you train or whatever it is, if you're around toxic people, you're gonna be, it's proximity is power. If you're around 5 toxic people, you're gonna be the 6th one. So it's like, pursue your physical health first. Start there. Audit your environment. Change that. And that can be really hard. That's like a part of personal growth that no one talks about, the period of isolation that you've got to go through. Because what happens is people are used to perceiving you as a certain way. When you start to change, they start to judge, they try to project. And until they're comfortable in this new self, relationships will either get edited, deleted, or they'll get upgraded.
That's what I think. I coined this term myself. I feel like one of the biggest things that holds us back is I think we put ourselves in perception prison where
Yes, bro. Yeah, 100%.
it's literally, we care so much about how others perceive us that it would actually be more comfortable to be perceived in a negative way than be perceived as the dreamer who is never going to succeed. It's scary. Recently, I made a post about, this is my goal, this is my dream. It's hard to show to the world that this is where I am. I don't have a parachute ready for me. This is where I'm going. It's easier to be perceived as, yeah, he's just a good guy. He doesn't rock the boat. Pretty good guy. But being a dreamer, being someone who wants to make an impact or a change in their life, you can fail. And when you can fail, there's a fear of the judgment that comes there.
I think it's like anything, mate. Like discipline, backing yourself. You've got to, people are always going to doubt you, and whether it's tall poppy syndromes or it's because people can't perceive themselves in your same situation or couldn't see themselves doing it, so they won't believe in you. The only way to create that is you've got to fucking back yourself, and it's like no one will believe in you until you start to believe in yourself, and that can be really difficult.
That's why I think taking action's just, it's easy to believe in yourself when the evidence is right in front of you, when you can see the physical transformation in your life, when you feel better. Because you'll know this, like the body becomes addicted to the negative emotions, and we start to recreate circumstances in our lives because our body has a memory. So when we change, there's uncertainty. So there's a fear around, what are these new emotions? Like, this is unfamiliar. Even though I feel good, it's unfamiliar. Like, get me back into the toxic the toxic recreation of those feelings. The thing you said before, and I think that's relevant, is the reason I think just taking action with your physical health is so important is because Einstein has this beautiful quote about you can't solve problems with the same level of thinking that created it. When you take action such as going to the gym and you feel better in yourself, you start to have more awareness around the problems that were created at a lower vibrational frequency, and it gives you access and insight into a different version of yourself. But if you're stuck at that lower level, you don't have the insight or the vantage point to see the version of yourself that created those problems. And that's why I think it can be such a simple thing as going to the gym. And I think as you go to the gym, right, you'll realize, okay, going to the gym isn't going to solve all your deep problems, but it's the starting point. And I think in a world now where I feel like we're trying to get to this like conclusion of like, I have no fear, I have no judgments, I'm complete. And we're trying to get to this arrival point, which not only is nearly probably impossible to reach that state of enlightenment, but I think we're almost way too optimistic about how quick the journey is going to be, how quick that journey of change is going to be, because because it's like positively redirecting that fear. Like let's say we have the fear of not feeling safe, so we want to feel invincible so that we can feel safe, and it's like we're just reorienting the same root fear in a positive way.
So it's like, I look at it like this. I bring myself back to our journey of, there's so many times I'm like, oh my God, I'm finally so healed. And then there's another level. And it's been from 2015 to 2025, 10 years of working on myself. And it's just like, you just get better and better and better. And it's like what I call, it's like the journey of self-mastery. And it's forever going. It's like anything. It's like a road that doesn't stop. You know what I mean? But that's not about it. It's about your lifestyle, because every time you do it, your life gets better. You either understand, you unlock deeper love and meaning in your life. You unlock, a better body, more money, better people, better relationships, more purpose, more direction. It's a journey that, it's consistent and never ends. As soon as we accept that, we stop, waiting for it to end at this end destination, because there is none. But what there is, it's like you can get to one mountaintop and it's like, fuck it, let's go to the next one, because that's what we do, right? We don't stop and appreciate it. I know a past version of myself never stopped and smelled the roses. Like, all right, cool, just run a 100-mile ultra marathon next, whatever. So it's about appreciating each different stage of life and taking time and to reflect on that and to truly appreciate it, right? Because that's what's within our control, is we get to appreciate it. Otherwise, we're always chasing this feeling that we're going to look for someone to give us without knowing that we can can give that to ourselves.
I think we write these like unwritten contracts, right? Like once I reach the town of success through this road, then I'm going to be happy. And it's like, there is no arrival point. There is just driving on this road up a few mountains. And it's like, can we look around? Can we, yeah, because there's the like smell the roses, but it's appreciate the view. There's unique power in like the struggle as well. And I think it's not just about appreciating when we get to the top of the mountain, but it's also how much the experiences are actually fun if you change your perception on them. Like the hustle to create a successful business, and we're all just like, once I get this, I'll be able to feel relief, and then I'll be able to appreciate my growth. It's like there's always a way to enjoy the journey more. And that's not to say that there are times when it's going to be shit and you're going to have to hustle and put your head down. But I think, I don't know, I've been reading a lot of existential philosophy and all these people about, you know, like in 150 years, are you really going to, right, we're not going to be around in 150 years. So are you really going to be worried about if it's going to work out? Are you really going to worry about the little specific detail of a font that you use in a business thing? You know, the little things that we worry about. And I think there's that real balance, because I believe in very high standards, and I believe in the little details that you focus on will actually make a difference. But that doesn't mean you have to be attached to them emotionally, right? You've got to, that's the paradox inside of us, right? Like I've heard it a lot before, like you shouldn't sweat the small stuff, but it's all the small stuff that matters, right? The little details aren't going to make you happy in the sense of, you know, if you master this font on Canva, it's not going to make you a happy person. It might help a little bit. And I think, yeah, you've got to find the nuance in life. And I think, as you've alluded to, sometimes you have to have the difficult experience to learn the lesson. But I'm more subscribed to a proactive approach. I think we can not wait. I don't. What's the point of waiting? I mean, and that's the thing. A lot of life, it drifts. It's slow. Time slowly passes by. We've slowly been in this job we hate for 10 years. We slowly watch our relationship turn to the gutter. It's just slowly drifts.
I think, yeah, like you said, bro, it's like life drifts past you, and it's like, okay, cool. If we bring it back down to what do we really want from life? And it's like what you were saying before. It's like, from the meaning, or whatever, how you want to look at the meaning of life, I think it's the hero's journey, right? Like it's like you'll never truly appreciate your life unless you go through struggles and challenges. It's like anything that's great has to be hard to work for, otherwise you just wouldn't appreciate it, right? So I think life is a series of, you go challenge, trials and tribulations, and you'll keep repeating the same mistakes until you learn the lessons. And when you learn the lessons, you'll unlock a new level of life, whether it's better stuff materialistically, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and each time that you do that. But I think, like, as we all know, it's like going on your own unique journey, finding purpose and a reason to be, or like Ikagi, a reason to be, and then experiencing love it. Because it's like success without, like, as you probably know from a lot of successful people, it's like success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
Tony Robbins.
Yeah, and it's like we're all out here on our own unique journey. It's like, what do we want to like look back on and say, I got through that? And then it's just about being around people that you love, having love in your life, and experiencing life to your own unique fullness.
Because I think what happens is, and this is how I conceptualize it, when we reach that rock bottom moment, it strips away the illusion that life is going to be forever, because it forces us to confront the mask that we've been putting on, and it forces us to say, well, one, life isn't forever, and two, I don't want to feel this way again. It brings immediacy to our own mortality, and I think it's, while often, and this is the thing though, and this is what I want to ask you about now in the world that we live in, right? Like there's been a lot of awareness around mental health. Like, there's a lot of positive movements bringing awareness, but statistics aren't changing, right? The suicide rate continues to climb. Men are struggling more than ever. So what are we missing?
Awareness without action means fuck all, right? And awareness is great, but it's having actionable steps to implement. So we can create awareness, like mental health is important, blah, 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 do X, Y, this. but it's that own person's individual responsibility to look after their own mental health, meaning they need to take action, but then they also need to have the right tools and resources. It's like anything. We can have all the awareness without the world. So it's like, hey, mate, we have the best gyms around here. The gyms are so fucking great. Go to the gym, go to the beach. It's all good. But without actually going into those places and blah, well, what do I do now? So it's like, how do people better understand and better work their mental health? This is why like 9D breath work is getting really like good. But it's like not everyone, but it's like sometimes, whether it's the system or whatever we want to call it, it's like sometimes we band-aid the problem. So sometimes in counseling and psychologists and stuff like that, when they talk into things, it's like we have this really good talk therapy, and it's like it's long game. Whereas there's so many different modalities out there that can speed up the process of helping heal the subconscious mind. There's shadow work. There's different things that are out there, but then it's like to get the correct tools and healings that we need, it's like, can people afford it? But I think it comes back down to what I said. If you don't know what to pursue, start with your physical health. And it's about being able to do that consistently without giving up. Then it's like, that's one. Then work on your environment. Audit your environment. What are you consuming on your phone? Who are the people that you're around? If you fix your environment, you start to fix yourself. If you work on your physical health, that will start. And then it's like each person comes with baggage. It's the emotional ball and chain that we come across, and it's helping people get better awareness about that. So it's like, okay, cool. It's just having people, it's making it, normalizing it more and having the right tools like to do it. Because how many hotlines do people don't use? It's there, but it's just like, I don't want to do that. There's shame attached to it. So it's like normalizing it. And if we can make the things that we do that to better support our mental health more normalized and have it more easily accessible, because people are fucking lazy. And there's no doubt about it. Even people would choose to rather complain about their mental health than do something about it because it's comfortable, right? That's just why discipline is so important, and taking ownership, because people want to blame everyone else but themselves. And then, and it can, like, they could have had a bad life. They could have been through the absolute dog shittest thing. But at the end of the day, it's no one else's responsibility but them to change. They've got to want it. They don't want it. It's like taking a horse to water and making it drink. So I think it's like, to solve and better help the, mental health, we need to start with making it more socially acceptable. Meaning, like, whether it's talking about our emotions, it's about having the right tools and resources, whether it's workshops, breath works, different people in the industry, helping people, making that more, mainstream, making it affordable in what way or capacity. And then I think everything comes back down to the absolute basic physical health, because that's a direct reflection of our mental health, right? If we can get our physical health right, not saying that solves it, because there's plenty of people that have really good physical health and terrible mental health, but it's a process of elimination. 3 pillars: mental, physical, emotion. When I start to get physical, it's working with my mental and it's working with my emotional health, and it's like, if I'm in the gym and I still feel shit about myself, it's then, who do I need to go to next? Who can I talk to?
I feel like there's a lot to unpack there, but like, for example, the mental health movement, right? Like, it's one of those things where the awareness is incredible, right? But without action, it's not really going to do anything. It's only going to perpetuate your awareness of your problems and probably validate the belief system of I'm not good enough, and you'll continue to look for those patterns in your life. But there's also now in our society, there's this significance attached to having a label and having a problem, because it's very difficult to say to someone or be hard with someone and say, yeah, what you've gone through is shit, but you also can change your life if you want. It's hard to be direct and honest with people, because there's such there's so much significance you get from saying, oh, I have this or I have that label, because it does make people feel significant and a victim of their life, right? And I think the aspect of responsibility is, because taking responsibility doesn't mean everything is your fault. It means you're controlling how you respond. You're taking ownership for the action you take after the suffering that you endured. And that's the essence of stoicism. Feel the emotions, validate the part of yourself that went through the shit experiences. Don't dissociate and find ways to do that. But your life after, you've got to find responsibility for it. Because the past is the past. It will continue to show up. But the reason it keeps replicating is not a coincidence. It's not bad luck, the world's against me.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, right? It's like, and we talk about this, like there's so many different modalities that I've worked with from like timeline therapy. There's different stuff, but it's working in forgiveness. I think Emil Stevens says this. It's like, while you can't change what's happened to you, that doesn't, that doesn't like, the past is a past. It doesn't mean it was right or wrong, right? So this is where that victim mentality comes into. But we like when people say, "How can it be my fault that I was raped?" or that how can it be my fault that this happened to me? It's not your fault, but it is your fault if you don't choose to change, because that's on you. No one's going to change that. I know that it's a hard pill to swallow. People don't want to listen to it sometimes, depending on what nothing, like whether the past is the past, it's right or it's wrong. That's not your fault. You're not a victim of your circumstances. Like if something's happened to you and it's been bad, you're not that victim. That's not right, right? But it is after that event. If you just keep reliving that, that's your responsibility to change that. And it's like the only person that can do that is you. It's like I went through a traumatic experience and I saw my friend died. So now because my friend died, that was terrible. That's hard. You need to validate that. You need to express that. You need to go through that. You need to feel that. But because that was hard, doesn't give you the excuse now, because now that hard and I don't know how to cope with it, I'm going to eat KFC for the next 3 years straight and let myself get morbidly obese. That's your fault. That's not your fault because you can't change that. That's not there, but it is your fault. If you, with that pain, what you choose, if you choose to carry it or you choose to change it, that's at the end of the day, it's your responsibility, and it's hard. And it's the only way to feel empowered is to know that, right, fuck, I've actually got to do something about this. You know what I mean? And it's okay to fall down. It's okay to fail. It's okay to be imperfect. But if you can choose to get up every single time, you will improve. And that's why it's like, like if you do not quit, you do not lose. That's success. If you do not quit, you do not lose. If you quit, you lose 100%. If you keep choosing to get back up, doesn't mean that it's not about being aware and pivoting and adjusting and creating different ways. Okay, I failed 5 times that way. Keep doing that. Then it's the definition of insanity, right? But you've got to pivot and adjust. So, yeah, I think, ownership is key.
What's the most overrated piece of self-help advice?
That things should be easy. 5 steps to do this, 5 steps to do that. We don't get me wrong. We all have frameworks and everything else like that is good, but you got to be under the assumption that it's going to be hard. Don't expect it to be easy.
So go into life with the awareness that it's going to entail suffering.
Yeah, and be okay with it. Because it's like, if you're willing to shovel shit for 10 years and at the end of it be okay, but it's like, right, you'll be able to get to your point if you're willing to show it. Like if you want to be successful, you want to be an athlete, you want to be the best partner, if you want to be the best at whatever, are you willing to shovel shit for 10 years? It's like, if you can answer that, well, then you'll go get there. Because it's just like, you've got to know that it's going to be hard. Because if we expect it to be, if let's say you go in there with the interpretation it's going to be hard, then it gets easy, that's okay. Because then there might be another level. But if you just know that it's going to be difficult and we're going to require grit, this is why I always teach people, and it's in the personal development space. Yes, it's about slowing down. It's about being kind to ourselves. It's about loving ourselves. It's about nurturing ourselves, and it's giving to ourselves. And you can create change to so much degree of healing and them slowing down and getting our nervous system regulated. That is one side of it, the healing. And this is what I speak about in the Modern Day Warrior Academy. You'll get there because that's 100% needed. But you will not be free until you've mastered grit and discipline, because that is the only true way to have freedom, is with those things. If you have grit, if you can bite down when it gets tough and keep persevering, and if you can do what you need to do and stick to the plan no matter how fucking you feel, you'll get there. Because it's like, you can do your healing and you can crush your limiting beliefs and overcome your fears and all the other things. But if now you've got a plan, you've actually got to stick to it. But that's where a lot of people fall off, because it gets hard. or they just can't be fucked. And that's like the gateway, I think, like you do, once you heal on your journey, you need to build these characteristics. I can't remember, it's a famous runner. He's like, you'll always be a slave. And it's like our life is so fucking easy designed to be comfortable. Social media, instant gratification, Uber Eats, technology advancements, which has made our brain subconsciously lazy because things should be easy. Flick it of a button, kids playing PlayStation, YouTube, all the things. Not taking away, everyone deserves balance. I'm not preaching a monk lifestyle, but it's understanding that the more that you expect life to be easier, the harder it will become.
Interesting. I think how it's negatively affects people's lives is because they often sabotage their unique path, which does require suffering, because they're trying to avoid suffering, because they're trying to find relief from this wound that was in their childhood. They're trying. It's sort of counterintuitive to think that more suffering is going to lead to a version of yourself that will have less suffering, because you evolve as an individual and you become more empowered and capable. The famous quote that I really like, I think maybe it's Hormozy, but life doesn't get easier, you get stronger. I always reminded myself of that, because everything is relative to our capacity to endure it. And I think another guest I had on talked about investment capital, personal capital. If you invest into yourself, you become the person capable of enduring these things, right? Not only do you get a return on it, but these skills that you develop through the suffering become transferable. They become a commodity. It's something you get to utilize on the day to day. Because if you've gone through the depths of if you've gone through hard shit, if you've gone through suffering, if you've trained yourself time after time to show up, then everything relative to that. Because what is hard? What even is hard? What's easy? It's all a relative interpretation of our mind. So if your reference point is fucking the shit, and you've shown up time and time again, it's easy.
It's like that thing. It's like it comes back down to like what you said before. It's like every new level there's a new mountaintop, and the best way to kind of look at this is like if you're an unfit person running 5K is an achievement, and then if you're pretty fit, 5K running 10K is an achievement, and it's like running 21Ks, and you run 42Ks, and it's 50Ks, and it's 100Ks, and it's 100 miles, and it's 200 miles. Then people run 500 miles, so it's just like it keeps ascending. But it's like, but the more that you do that, the better equipped the better investment that you are, because you have the tools and the capabilities to handle the next level of life, depending on how far you want to push and how far you want to take yourself.
Yeah, I think there's something powerful about having discipline and an ability as a man to endure suffering as like the cornerstone. And there is that real balance of like, nose to the grindstone, and, you're not really fulfilled and you're suffering, and, there's not a cookie cutter answer, but I think if you have a resistance to suffering, it's going to be a pretty hard life, because you're going to interpret everything as it shouldn't be like this. And when you have a resistance to what is, I think that's the essence of what they say suffering is, right?
100%, mate, 100%.
Any concluding thoughts on our episode today? What do you think the guests should leave knowing?
I guess if you want to take any think from today's, podcast, if you're someone that's really suffering with mental health, the first thing that I would do is work on your physical health, audit your environment, audit where you're spending your time and energy. Is it at the pub? Is it on your phone too much? Are you comparing yourself to others? And then I would audit that, and I'd begin to change that. Start in the gym, going for walks, going for a run. Start there. Start to listening to podcasts, read a book. Audit what your algorithm's doing on your social media. Start to watch things that empower you versus disempower you. Instead of just mind dump. Start there. Fix your sleep. Drink enough water. I would start there. Realize, expect life is going to be difficult, and the only way to do that is to start to embrace the suffering. Life is going to be difficult, but that doesn't mean you don't get to stop and smell the roses. It does not mean that life isn't going to be amazing. It's focus on the small things, learn to appreciate the small moments with your families, the magic moments, whether it's a sunset, whether it's just a smile from your partner, it's a laugh with one of the boys. Learn to appreciate the small things, be disciplined, find a blueprint, find a game plan. If you want a particular outcome from your life, success leaves clues, find someone that's done it, ask them how they've done it, be disciplined, take ownership of all your wrongdoings, take ownership of your flaws, realize that if you want life to change, you have to change. Life gets good when you get good.
It isn't easy, but it is simple.
Yeah.
Love it. Jake Ward, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me on today, bro.
Awesome.